Welcome to Detour from Sanity, where we venture off the beaten path into the dark and twisted corners of the internet. Tonight, we're diving into several chilling Reddit stories that will send shivers down your spine and make you question what lurks in the shadows. Buckle up, because once you take this detour, there's no turning back. Let's begin. This first story comes from Reddit user Lurks No More 2. My high school girlfriend called me late one night after I was home and in bed. She said that something had happened and asked if I could come over. She was clearly shaken and not full of details, so I told my parents and drove over towards her house. At the top of her subdivision, I was met by a cop with lights on. He asked where I was going, and I told him about the call from my girlfriend. He let me go by, and I came over the hill to the cul-de-sac where she lives, and I see multiple cop cars around the circle. They watch me pull up and get out of my car. My girlfriend comes running out of her house and meets me in the street. She explains that someone had broken into her neighbor's house and started beating her with something heavy. The neighbor managed to get out of the house and head to my girlfriend's house, where she started banging furiously on the front door. My girlfriend's dad was out of town, so her mom answered the door and the neighbor just fell into the foyer, bleeding profusely from the head. Her mom looks up to see the attacker headed up the walkway towards the front door. She pulls the neighbor into the house and closes the door, hitting the attacker with it before it fully closed. He then took the heavy tool he had used to beat up the neighbor and smashed the little window at the top of the door. Her mom started screaming and the attacker just turned around and walked up the street into the darkness. I spent the night there, along with 2 or 3 cops outside in their cars. And in the morning, we can see blood still pooled on the floor in the foyer and splattered blood above the front door where the attacker had swung the bloody tool to smash the window. No one was ever caught or even identified. It was just completely random. The neighbor survived and, to my knowledge, had no permanent physical injuries beyond scarring from having her scalp stapled shut. She moved away shortly after the incident. This story is from Reddit user Grace Omega, titled, "There's Something in My House." I recently moved into a big house, actually sort of a mansion, just temporarily. It's kind of complicated situation. The house belongs to a family member. They were going to be gone for a few months, that sort of thing. I was going to be there on my own, so obviously I thought, what if it's haunted? There wasn't anything in the house when I moved in. There is now. I was in the main hallway unpacking some stuff when the doorbell rang. That put me on edge right away because the house is at the end of a long driveway and kind of out of the way. You have to go looking for it. There was an old woman at the door, or sort of old. It was kind of hard to tell. This was in broad daylight, but there was still something kind of off about her. She was really tall, like a full head taller than me, and there was something weird about the way she looked. It was like none of her clothes fit properly. She shook my hand and smiled, really wide, and told me she was from the neighborhood council or something and asked if she could come in and talk to me. My gut reaction was to say no, but I couldn't really think of a reason to. She was just an old woman. What was she gonna do? I really wish I had just slammed the door in her face. I brought her into the living room and she sort of tottered behind me, like her feet didn't fit into her shoes properly. She sat down without asking and grinned at me until I took a seat across from her. For about a half a minute, she didn't say anything, just smiled and stared at me while I got increasingly awkward. Just as I was about to break the silence, she fished in her pocket and pulled out this really big old-fashioned sweet, the type that comes in see-through wrapping. "Here," she said, "eat this." I should probably point out here that she spoke really quietly, so it was difficult to hear anything she said. I accepted the sweet, kind of taken aback, and unwrapped it. It was dark, red, almost black. I popped it in my mouth because she was still grinning at me and nodding her head. Have you ever walked behind a supermarket where they keep the big bins? They throw meat that's gone off in those. Picture that rancid smell, but on a hot summer day. It's so thick you could almost feel it in the air. That's what the sweet tasted like. I almost spit it onto the floor, but social niceties made me chew the thing and force it down my throat. The woman was talking all the time, but between the taste and her quiet voice, I barely heard her. My mouth tasted like rotten meat, so I politely told her I was going to go get some water and ran into the kitchen. When I came back, she was gone. I had been in the kitchen for less than 30 seconds. My first reaction probably should have been to assume that she went into the bathroom or leave in a hurry. Instead, I searched the entire house. I went through every single room, convinced I was going to open a closet or look under the bed and see her stuffed in there, grinning at me. That didn't happen, obviously, but I was still extremely on edge and the sun started to go down. I felt like I was turning off the lights in my bedroom after spotting a giant spider in there. That night, I propped a chair against my bedroom door because I just couldn't shake the feeling that that woman was still in the house somewhere, hiding. I woke up around 1:30 in the morning and heard a creaky floor bed down the street. It was an old house and unfamiliar. I kept telling myself that until the noises stopped. When I woke up the next morning, there was a red sweet on the living room table. I'll tell you the same thing I told the police. No, I couldn't be absolutely certain that the sweet wasn't there the day before. Maybe I had just overlooked it, but I didn't think so. They told me that the organization the woman claimed to come from didn't actually exist and clearly thought I was wasting their time. After they left, I searched the entire house again and the grounds. Then I searched them again. By the time I was finished, I had managed to calm down a bit and look at the situation rationally. The woman probably left the suite there the previous day and I just didn't notice. I had searched the whole house twice now. There was nowhere she could possibly be hiding. She was probably just some dottery old lady who wandered off while I was in the kitchen. As I prepared to go to bed, I had managed to fully delude myself into thinking nothing strange was going on. I decided not to do anything childish like blocking my door because what was I afraid of? Even if she somehow was still inside the house somewhere, what was she gonna do? At some point in the middle of the night, I woke up abruptly, knowing in the back of my mind that something was wrong. I guess I must have heard something in my sleep. I turned over onto my side and reached to turn on my bedside lamp, groping around because I was in an unfamiliar room. When the light came on, I saw the old woman standing right next to my bed. I only got a glimpse of her because as soon as I screamed, she scuttled backwards out the door, really fast. I only got the briefest glimpse of her before she vanished into the unlit hallway outside my door. I now believe that the human brain has a special compartment for dealing with experiences far outside the realm of the natural. If I had woken up to find a burglar in my room, I would probably have gone numb with panic. If there was a lion at the foot of my bed, I'd be too paralyzed with fear to do anything. But as soon as the woman was gone, that special compartment took over. I jumped out of bed and slammed the door shut, then shoved the chair up against the handle. Then I dashed for my phone. No signal, no internet. I later found out there was nothing wrong with the phone or local service. I think she was interfering with it somehow. The drop from the bedroom window wasn't too high. If I had landed just right, I'd probably avoid injury. But what if I sprained an ankle or broke my leg? I had a sudden vision of pulling myself across the dark garden while the woman sprinted after me and decided I didn't want to risk it. That gave me two options: wait out the night in my bedroom or try to get out of the house now. I went for the second one. I had an idea. My flimsy barricade wouldn't hold if the woman decided it wanted back in. I broke one of the chair legs off and crept slowly into the hallway, reaching carefully for the light switch. When I pressed it, the lights came on for a second, then faded out. I flicked the switch a few more times. Nothing. Some gut instinct told me she was sabotaging them, somehow. I used my phone for light as I slowly, quietly, crept along the upstairs hallway and down the stairs. The light barely traced the shapes of the wall and the dark, yawning frames of open doorways. I jumped at every single shadow, certain that any second that grinning face would appear out of the shadows. I got downstairs into the front door. I had double locked it and put the chain in place. Just as I was reaching for the first lock, I hear a rapid, uneven footsteps at the top of the stairs, approaching swiftly. undid the first lock. A high-pitched shriek came from the hallway down the stairs, and I screamed as I undid the second lock and wrenched the door open. It stuck fast. I had forgotten the chain. I glanced behind me and saw the tall, spindling shape of a woman half running, half falling down the stairs towards me, her head lolling backwards and her mouth hanging open. I can't even remember getting the chain off. I might have actually just yanked the door open so hard I broke it. In any case, the last I saw of the woman was her face, inches away from me, as I slammed the door shut. I sprinted to the nearest house, and eventually they called the police, possibly because I was half delirious with fear and babbling incoherently. The police, once again, failed to find anything unusual. It's been a week. I'm staying at a friend's place, sleeping with the lights on and the bedroom door barricaded. The house's real owners aren't back yet. I'm not sure what I'm going to tell them, but I have to stop them from going back there. Somehow. This isn't a haunting, it's an infestation. I can't stop thinking about all the holes in our defenses, the windows and doors left open, the strangers invited into our living rooms. I just hope to God it's the house that she wanted, and not me. This last story comes from Reddit user Peter Buck, titled, "My wife stepped on something in the lake. The next day, they found a body." A few years ago, when my daughter was a toddler, my wife and I used to take her to the nearby lake to picnic, swim, and just unwind. It was a peaceful spot, quiet, not too crowded, the kind of place where you could easily forget about the world for a while. One afternoon, we'd finished eating. My wife decided to go for a quick swim while I stayed on the beach with our daughter. I watched her wade out into the water, the sun sparkling on the surface. A minute later, she suddenly stopped and turned to me, shouting something. At first, I couldn't make out what she said, but her expression was off. Then I heard her clearly. "I think I just stepped on someone's face." I froze for a second, thinking maybe she was joking, but the look on her face wasn't playful. It was pale, almost terrified. She quickly started making her way back to the shore, her legs moving faster, like she couldn't get out of the water fast enough. When she got back to me, she was visibly shaken. She said that while she was swimming, her foot brushed against something soft, and at first she thought it was a rock or weird patch of seaweed. But when she pressed her foot down, she felt the unmistakable shape of a face beneath the water, a nose and eye socket. She swore she felt the hollow of the eye. I considered going in to check it out, but something stopped me. The unease in my gut, maybe. We decided to pack up and leave right after that. The next day, the local news reported that a young boy who had been missing for days was found drowned in the same lake, not far from where we had been. He had been there the whole time, just beneath the surface. To this day, my wife is convinced she stepped on his face. And that was several creepy Reddit stories. Thank you for joining us on this dark journey into the unknown. If these stories gave you chills and maybe kept you up at night, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more terrifying tales from the depths of Reddit. Remember, stay safe out there, and don't let the shadows creep in too close. Until next time, this has been Detour from Sanity, where sanity takes a detour.